What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90, and today we are back for the Premier League Week 4 predictions and tips as well. I've gone pretty risky for my tips today. Obviously, you can do safe tips like double chance and all stuff like that, but I'm trying to find a little bit of value, so I'm not going to get 10 out of 10 tips in this video, but some of them are going to be absolute gems. I want to give a shout out to Avantula, who left his predictions on the previous video, and he was the only comment that I saw actually predicting Leicester to beat Manchester City, and he was pretty close to the correct score as well, predicting a 3-2 win to Leicester. Now, let's have a little look back before we get into the Week 4 predictions at my Week 3 predictions. Kicking off, we had Brighton against Man United. I predicted a 2-1 away win to United, but my tip was both teams to score, and it ended 3-2, so pretty good there. The next one I was very, very proud of. I correctly predicted a 2-1 away win to Everton, and my tip was Everton over 1.5 goals at 2.2, so absolutely smashing it there. West Brom Chelsea. Oh dear me. I predicted a 3-0 win to Chelsea, and my tip was Werner to score anytime or Chelsea -1 handicap. It ended in a 3-3 draw, and Werner didn't even score. He then goes and scores against Tottenham in the Carabao Cup, so not a great show for me there. Burnley Southampton, I predicted a 2-2 draw. It was a 1-0 away win to Southampton. I had both teams to score, so failed there epically. Sheffield United up against Leeds. I correctly predicted, much against loads of other people, I predicted a Leeds 1-0 away win. A lot of people were predicting goals in that game, purely because Leeds have seen 14 goals in their 2 games prior. I saw it being low scoring, and I saw a 1-0 win, and I was right, and my tip was simply Leeds double chance. Next up, we had Tottenham versus Newcastle. I predicted a 3-1 win to Tottenham, and it very well could have been had the keeper not played so well for Newcastle and had Tottenham taken just a couple more of their chances. My prediction was Tottenham and over 1.5 goals, and as you guys know, that didn't happen because of the absolute controversy at the end. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Man City Leicester, my tip was Man City and both teams to score. I knew Leicester would score a few. I didn't think they'd score 5. So I got that one wrong. I predicted a 4-2 win to City, and it was 5-2, of course, to Leicester. West Ham and Wolves, another one I got very wrong. I predicted a 2-1 away win to Wolves. I thought it'd be close because West Ham did look very good against Arsenal. I didn't think West Ham would demolish them 4-0. Fulham Aston Villa, I had a 1-1 draw, and it actually ended 3-0 to Aston Villa. Fulham looked dreadful. I thought both teams would score. That was my tip, and Fulham did score, but it was disallowed. And then the final game, Liverpool versus Arsenal, another correct score prediction, so that's 3 for this week, I believe. I predicted Liverpool to win 3-1. So all in all, not bad. There were a few shocks last week, but I did have quite a few correct score predictions. 3 in 1 week. I'm pretty happy with that. Now let's get into week 4. We have, first of all, Chelsea versus Crystal Palace, and this is going to be a very, very close game. Crystal Palace have scored at least 1 goal in every single game they've played in the Premier League this season, and Chelsea have conceded at least 1 goal in every single game they've played this season. 1 against Brighton, 2 against Liverpool, and 3, of course, against West Brom. I do think Chelsea are going to have to bounce back and win this. I think the fact that they didn't take all 3 points from West Brom will leave them in good stead for this game, but Chelsea have conceded in every game. Crystal Palace have scored in every game, so I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win to Chelsea, and my tip is Chelsea and both teams to score at 2.87. Now, the next game is Everton up against Brighton. I think Everton are going to continue their strong run of form. I have to say, Brighton have been extremely unfortunate to not get more than 3 points from their first 3 games because they looked decent against Chelsea and they didn't get anything from it. They definitely deserve something against Manchester United, in my opinion, a draw at least, but they didn't get the win in the end, and it was a penalty at the end. You know, Man United, everyone says Penchester United. It was a penalty, so you can't argue with it, but Brighton, they'll be kicking themselves for that game, and Everton, they've been absolutely smashing it. They beat a well-drilled Crystal Palace side, as I predicted, very, very close, but they did get the win. Everton, they're going to get the win, I think, here, but it's not going to be high scoring because you have to remember when they put 5 past West Brom, they were against 10 men for portions of that game, and their other 2 wins both came by a 1-goal margin, and that being combined with Brighton looking pretty good lately means that I think it's going to be another close game. I think Everton are going to score 2 again, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Everton and have the same tip as last week, Everton over 1.5 goals, because then they could even lose 3-2 or something and still that would come in. I don't know what you guys just saw because the camera battery just died, but next game up, we do have Leeds up against Manchester City. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Leeds are looking pretty decent this season. They've done well to to get 6 points from their first few games, and the only points they have dropped was in their 4-3 defeat to Liverpool, in which they showed a good account of themselves, and I think they are going to be fine in this year's Premier League. Obviously, they're staying up, I think, as many people have actually predicted, but Man City have just announced the new defensive signing, which is very, very good for them, because as seen by conceding 5 against Leicester, they definitely did need one, but I still see them conceding a couple of goals here. I think Leeds are going to get a couple, so my prediction is going to be 4-2 to Manchester City, the same score prediction I did last week, and the same tip I did last week, Manchester City and both teams to score. Now, the next game is Newcastle up against Burnley. This is quite possibly one of the hardest ones to predict for me. I really have no idea. I know Burnley have had injury doubts. Newcastle haven't really had that many injuries, but they've been so hot and cold. They looked really good when they beat West Ham in the first week. West Ham looked terrible. Now West Ham looked great, and Newcastle, they looked awful against Tottenham. They were so lucky to get a point out of that game. They really did get out of jail with that one. And Burnley, I don't know with Burnley either. They're so hard to predict right now, and obviously they lost to Southampton, failing to find the back of the net. So I think Newcastle-Burnley games, they're always quite low scoring anyway, but you could easily see 3 goals in this fixture, so I didn't want to say under 2.5 goals as my tip. So I think Newcastle, although they had a really bad showing against Tottenham last week, I think they're going to do a little bit better this time round. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw, but my tip is going to be Newcastle double chance and under 3.5 goals at 1.66. Next up, we have a very interesting fixture. It is Leicester up against West Brom. Leicester still 100% in the Premier League after their brilliant victory up against Manchester City. The first 20 minutes or so, it looked a little bit bleak. Manchester City, of course, with about, 70% of the possession, but not only that, they did look like scoring goals, but Leicester, they held firm. I think they got that tactically right. Most teams can't sit back like Leicester did and actually cope with the Manchester City press, but without Jesus and Aguero, De Bruyne actually surprisingly didn't have an amazing game, which is, I don't read too far into that. I think De Bruyne is a fantastic player, one of the best midfielders in the world, and it's just, he sets such a high standard, it's kind of strange to see him have a bit of an off day. But Leicester, their game plan worked perfectly. They played really, really well, and then West Ham absolutely blew Wolves away. Other than that Newcastle loss in the first week, West Ham have looked pretty good, because when I saw that West Ham lost in the first week in the manner that they did, I was a bit worried for my prediction to see West Ham comfortably stay up in the Premier League like I predicted at the start of the season, because a lot of West Ham fans, a lot of other people have predicted West Ham to get relegated, and I just don't see it with their squad and with their talent. So I think this is going to be a very, very close game, but I think the momentum is with Leicester. West Ham put in a great performance against Wolves, and I think they're going to make it difficult for Leicester here, but I think Leicester are just a tiny bit better. They're that class above West Ham. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to Leicester, similar to the Burnley result. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, as this Premier League has seen quite a lot, but my tip is an interesting one. It's my least likely tip, I guess you could say, because I'm tipping Leicester to win and both teams to score. I did a similar prediction to the Arsenal-West Ham game as well, and that came true. I think Leicester and both teams to score is a decent shout for a value of 3.2. I have to say, that is not bad, so I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to Leicester. The next game is Southampton up against West Brom. I think Southampton, they'll be very happy to have got that victory against Burnley. Tough place to go and win, Turf Moor, and West Brom, it's going to be a bit bittersweet, because whilst if you told them before the game that they would take a point from Chelsea and obviously score 3 goals, I mean, they would definitely take that. But having been 3-0 up at half-time, and the fact that they still couldn't win is just, it's not great, is it? It doesn't make for a good viewing. So I think this is going to be a close-ish game, but Southampton should have enough to get the win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Southampton, and I think with West Brom scoring 3 in the previous game week, I think goals are going to happen, so I think West Brom might be able to score. So my tip is therefore Southampton to win and over 1.5 goals at 2.1, which isn't bad, because a regular Southampton win is 1.7, so potentially you could put that in an ACCA. I think it is, 1.7, and that's a pretty good odds for, potentially a 1-0 Southampton win. But given that I think West Brom have it in them to score 1 goal, and I think Southampton will win, Southampton and over 1.5 goals, also allowing for a 2-0 win at 2.1, is pretty decent in my opinion. The next game is Arsenal up against Sheffield United. Sheffield United really, really struggling. The only team I believe in the Premier League yet to score a goal, and I don't think they're going to do it up against Arsenal. I hope Arsenal start Gabriel. I understand when you look back on it, maybe why he didn't start against Liverpool, because it's, he's just new to the Premier League. But I mean, why not? why not start him? After the first 2 weeks, he'd completed the most successful passes in the Premier League out of anyone. And I know it's easy for a defender to do that a lot because they pass it around the back. But I said after the first game week that his passing vision and his success rate was great. I didn't realise he was getting more passes than every other player in the Premier League. He looked solid, and then we don't start him against Liverpool, and we just get absolutely, to be honest, demolished. Like, yeah, we scored a goal. It was a lucky goal, to be fair, from a Liverpool error, which is very, very rare. Lacazette took it well, but then he didn't take his other chances well. He had two, not only chances, but two clear chances to score, and that definitely could have changed the game. It really is a shame. I think if Aubameyang was in those positions, he would have scored. So questions do have to be had there, but unlike Southampton's tip where I'm going Southampton over 1.5, I'm just going to tip Arsenal to win here at 1.53. I'm not going to say over 1.5 because this could easily be a 1-0 win, much like when Leeds beat Sheffield United. I don't think going to the Emirates is a great thing for Sheffield United after their run of results and lack of goal-scoring form. You don't want to go to the Emirates. I think Arsenal are going to win this one fairly comfortably, and we're going to go for a 2-0 win. Possibly Arsenal half-time, Arsenal full-time. That might not be a bad shout because I think they are going to hit the ground running in this game. Next up is Wolves up against Fulham. Very similar to the Sheffield United fixture that I've just spoken about. I'm going to go for a Wolves win. They will need to bounce back, and luckily they can do it against who I believe are turning into the Premier League whipping boys this season once again, Fulham. I think Wolves are going to win this one fairly convincingly. My tip is Wolves to win at 1.5, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 score prediction because other than the West Ham 4-0 loss, Wolves do tend to keep it quite tight, and I backed Fulham to score against Aston Villa. I backed Fulham to have a better result against Aston Villa, and they just couldn't do it. So I think Wolves are going to fire a blank on this one. They could score, but even if they do, I expect Wolves to score at least 2. So I'm going to go for the 2-0 win and Wolves to win as my tip. The next game is probably the game of the week. It's Manchester United up against Tottenham, and good luck to anyone trying to predict this. It's currently the 30th of September, and I'm trying to predict who will win out of Manchester United and Tottenham. Quite possibly one of the most difficult things. The bookies have Manchester United as firm favourites to win this game at around 1.8, which is very, very surprising to me. I was considering doing a Tottenham double chance tip here because that's pretty good value for Man United not to beat a team that's a pretty decent team at the time that they're in. At the moment, we don't know if Manchester United are going to be making any more signings. I don't know if Gareth Bale will be ready to play. I'd imagine he should be, but he certainly won't start, I'd imagine. But I think this is going to be a close game, and I think both teams are going to score. I think Manchester United are pretty good for that. They conceded against Brighton, and that was my tip, both teams to score. Tottenham somehow conceded to Newcastle. So I think both teams will score in this game, and I can't separate the two. I'm going to go for a high-scoring one. I'm going to go for a 2-2 score prediction. And I did look into the over 2.5 goals and both teams to score market, and the odds were 2.2. But just in case this ends in a 1-1 draw, I'm going to go for both teams to score as my tip at 1.75. And my final game is Aston Villa up against Liverpool. Aston Villa still 100% in the Premier League. I mean, they're looking pretty decent. They look very good in the Carabao Cup as well against Burton back then. You know, they smashed it. And they looked really, really good against Fulham. They conceded quite a lot of possession and a fair few chances at the beginning, but Fulham just couldn't take them. And then Aston Villa turned it up, turned the switch on, scored a couple of goals. So I think Aston Villa are going to score here. Liverpool, they conceded to Arsenal. They conceded to Leeds 3 times. And they kept a clean sheet against Chelsea, but they did concede a penalty, and they were against 10 men. So Liverpool aren't looking as solid at the back as they have been, so I think Aston Villa are going to score, and I'm going to go for a 4-1 Liverpool win, my tip being Liverpool and over 2.5 goals at 1.86, and that does allow for a 3-0 win in case Aston Villa don't score. Otherwise, I would have definitely said Liverpool and both teams to score as my tip because there is more value there. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this video. There were a few cuts in here because I had, camera battery issues, but yes, let me know down in the comments your prediction for a chance to be featured in the next week's video. Let me know what you think of my tips. As I said, I went a little bit risky here. It'd be way easier to go for, safer tips like Chelsea win, Everton win, City win, or over 2.5 goals, whichever you like. Leicester win, Southampton win, Arsenal win, Wolves win, Liverpool win. I think all of those will happen. I think this is quite an easy week actually to predict. The only teams I can see really potentially drawing are Newcastle and Burnley. Other than that, I think the result is a pretty good one to go on. The United-Tottenham game, another tough one to predict. But that is going to do it from me either way. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe as we're very, very close to 10,000 subscribers. And I will see you in the next video very soon.